Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, September 3rd, 2021, and we're going to get started with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. We are coming into a 3-day weekend. We've got Labor Day on Monday, so we'll see what they have to bring to the cards today. Go up to our quarterly and still looking very, very strong there. Really nothing to say up here on the quarterly and the monthly. You could look at that RVI right now, how it's just kind of slowly sloping down. The slope, it seems to be curving now, so we'll see what ends up happening. But again, can't really say too much over here. Just a very strong, if you look at the slope of the market over the last, I think this is 11 years of price action on this monthly chart. The slope you can see right now is extremely high there compared to some of the past moves. And if we look at this current leg right here, right, that was, let's see, 2140 to 3540. So for about 1400 points. And then we have this other leg here from 3190 to 4550. So again, another almost 1400 points right there. So almost the same exact leg right above us. So if we move this up here, you can see that we made just about the same push to the next level up. That would bring us into 4600. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, too much time spent on this upper time frame. Weekly, looking strong as well with no signs of exhaustion. Everything looks pretty strong here on the ultra high time frames. When we get to the daily, that's when we start to get a little bit of some bearish indications here. So if we look back to the high we made on August 31st and we compare it to the candle from yesterday, we did push just a little bit higher in price, just a few ticks, but it did push a little bit higher. And if you look at the RVI here, it did push lower when that closed. Now we're getting kind of this, if you look at the RVI here, this slope back upward here. So this might end up being a false signal, but at the moment, until this next candle closes and we get a clearer picture on the RVI right here, this is a bearish signal off the high. So we do want to keep that in mind coming into this morning. We can't say anything about the current candle because there's just too much that can happen before it finally closes and this picture could change. So right now we do have that bearish indication on the daily off of the previous daily high. When we get to our 4-hour, we also did start to get a buildup here of bearish and bullish indications on the highs and the lows. And we're kind of in a similar situation to what we were in. I guess we could go back to end of July here where we had this, let me see if I can get this typed up here. This kind of this back and forth. We got bullish, bearish, very sideways. We're starting to see a little bit of that right now in this kind of general area here. Getting a lot of chop between about 45.16 and 45.46, let's say it there. So we got like a little 30-point range here. Now overall, if we just kind of step back, we can see that we're pushing and pulling back to make higher lows as we go here. So we got this low on the 27th, pushed, pulled back to a higher low on the 29th, pushed to pull back and make a higher low on the 31st. And then we made this higher low on, I guess, the night of September 1st. And now here into the overnight session. Coming into the pre-market, we do have another higher low here. So we are making higher lows and arguably higher highs, but we are stuck in a little bit of sideways chop. And you can see that in this 4-hour chart where we have kind of a lot of counter indications on either end right now. So the most recent indication that we have here is this bearish divergence off of our overnight high. And we actually got it back at the overnight high that was made around midnight Pacific here. And then on this little push up which actually happened, what was it, non-farm payroll here at 5:30 Pacific this morning. We peaked up, made a new higher high for the overnight session. So this is our new overnight high. It also happens to be the all-time high in the market. We did push higher, but the RVI pushed lower on that as well. So we have these three, looks like pretty much three bearish indications. The off of the previous daily high, essentially, and then we have off of the overnight high, the original overnight high, and now this little test to push higher also got a bearish signal. So a bunch of bearish signals over here on the 4 hour, and don't necessarily see the strongest bullish indication. We have a bullish divergence from the low that we made off of this last candle from yesterday. So right off the low here, there was a bullish indication, but the most recent signal is this bearish divergence right here off that candle, and then arguably this current candle, which will close at 7 a.m. Pacific, 30 minutes into the New York Open. If that closes in the same way that we see it right now, there will be that other bearish indication. We get down to our 60-minute here, and 60-minute is, again, the same thing. We're seeing somewhat of a sideways choppy situation with basically bullish indications off the lows and bearish indications off the highs. Currently, this little push, again, right when we had the NFP at 5:30 a.m. Pacific, we did have this push higher and a push lower on RVI. Now this candle right here, very ambiguous looking, but there is an argument to be made for that right there. And so we do have a number of bearish indications this morning. Just kind of looking at some of the other stuff here. We did also get an agreement with the 4-hour bullish indication off of the low that we made close to the close from yesterday. So if we go back to the 4-hour here, you see it right here off of this candle, which I believe opened right around 10 a.m. So we do have that bullish indication on the 4-hour and the 60-minute from that low that we made in the market there just before we closed. But we are getting the opposite indication. So this is one of those mornings where we might not have a nice clear bias, bullish or bearish. It might be more of an ambiguous type of morning here. So let's take a look at the 30-minute, and 30-minute basically agrees. Yeah, it was NFP, non-farm payroll, and as far as employment stuff goes, let me look here. Yeah, it says employment situation 8:30. I don't know if that's the same thing as NFP, but let's take a look here on the 30-minute. Also agrees on the low that we see the bullish divergence on the 4-hour and the hourly. But we also do have this situation here with that bearish indication off the high of that candle that we talked about when the NFP came out at 5:30 a.m. Pacific. So things are looking just a little bit kind of undecided here as to what's going to happen. Let's take a look at the 10-minute, and we do have the agreement there. There's a little bit of an argument, again, a subsequent candle situation where we pushed down by a tick or two, but the RVI pushed considerably higher there off of that low, or actually it was just subsequent right there. So we did have a little bit of that bullish case off of the low that we saw for the 10, 30, and the 60 back there, and the 4-hour, but we also have the bearish indications off the high. So everything's looking a little bit more, there's no one bias that I could pick out from the data here. So we're going to have a little bit more, the word is escaping me this morning, I'm a little tired, but we're going to basically want to look for the market to break through the overnight high. And in order for there to be any type of bullish bias this morning, And if they cannot get through the overnight high, then we could expect maybe a little bit more chop or a pullback. Again, it's going to really depend on what the market ends up doing here this morning. So it will be, that's the word, a little bit more conditional. So we have some conditions this morning. Ideally, we'd like for the bulls, we'd like for them to hold above that low that we made back at about 11:15 yesterday, and then go ahead and push up to get through the overnight high. If they cannot do that, we break below that low that we made around 11:15 yesterday, then we could expect some type of larger pullback. Of course, we do have the previous daily high and the previous daily low. Previous daily high up at 44.44. So again, getting up above that is going to give us a better indication of any type of bullish situation this morning. Breaking below 45.30 here, 50% of the previous day. Not a great case for the bulls. Getting below the previous daily low, and even greater case for the bears. So we'll just have to see what they do this morning. This will be a situation where we're just basically taking this level by level, signal by signal, and keeping in mind that it could go either way this morning. So I'll just leave it at that.